Meeting will come to order. Can I have confirmation of proper notice, please?
It was posted April 11th and according to statutory requirements.
Thank you. Can I have roll call?
Yes, you may. Roger Schultz.
Here.
Dick O'Dowd.
Here.
Leslie Jacobs. Here. I'm here. Steve O'Toole.
Steve's in.
Steve's not. Dick Picola.
Dick is the doctor.
Jim Munson.
Yep, I'm here.
Marty Kaufman in person. I don't have to say what. Paul Sallis, did you want to announce?
He
Yes,
also has the
Paul,
doctor's issue. He called me.
Paul Salas is that.
He's got a doctor's issue this afternoon.
Also, it's sad to report that Paul did lose his wife last week after 50-some odd years of marriage.
59.
59 years.
She was 92.
Yeah. We send our condolences to Paul Salas.
Tammy. Here. Sue. Nancy Arnold. Here. Debbie Dial. Here. John Humphrey.
Here.
Sue Down. Here. John West.
Here.
Right, we have a forum.
Steve O'Toole came into town to come to the meeting, but I don't know where he is. He was just in my office.
I passed him at the drift in. Okay, ladies and gentlemen of the board, I'm sure you did receive in your packet, once again, minutes from the previous Board of Directors meeting, dated March 11th, 2019, the organizational meeting and the regular board meeting. This time, we'll go one by one. Let's go with the organizational meeting. I hear a motion to accept. Motion made by Dick O'Dowd, seconded by Leslie Jacobs. All in favor signify by raising their hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Also, we have the minutes of the regular board meeting. At this time, the chair will entertain a motion to accept. Motion by Dick O'Dowd, seconded by Leslie Jacobs. Question on the motion. Further question on the motion. All in favor signify by raising their hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Okay, Pam, for the record, Steve is back from the drift in.
Welcome.
Glad to have you back, Steve. All right, treasurer's report. John, now West.
Well, you kept me quickly here today. Well, I'm going to go through it.
Hold on, John. There you go. You got
An
it.
abbreviated report here today. At the present time, we have in funds, that includes our operating funds and reserves, $1,208,629, and we're on budget. We're off budget a little bit, but most of these are seasonal adjustments that are taking on our utilities, for instance, with the pools being run, etc. It's given us a little more gas and electricity involved with it, but we're right on budget otherwise, and our reserves are running right along as they're supposed to be, and our income is also. Any questions?
Questions on the finance report? None. John Haggerty, can I have accounts receivable, please?
Yes. Accounts receivable is at present considered very low. The total, accounts receivable right now is considered very low. Let me see where we are here. Yeah. Well, we find it somewhere in here.
How about 13,827?
Yeah, well, I see the dollars. I just wanted to spread out exactly what the term was. Anyway, it is $13,000. There's 6 units at 01, 1 quarter, none at 02, and there's 2 units with legal issues. One is paying. We'll talk about that under the units with legal issues, and one, of course, we're awaiting settlement. I'll jump into that one because that's the most important part of the accounts receivable, Jim, if that's all right.
Yes, go right ahead.
Okay, our unit with legal issues is basically down to 2 units. One, a foreclosure action's been filed on unit 162. Roughly 15 days from now, the court will rule. There is a contingency going on, is that someone that wants to purchase the unit, and if they come to closing before foreclosure, either the new owner or the original owner or the trust will have to pay all of the expenses the association's incurred collecting its fees, which total somewhere over $11,000 with legal fees. So one or two things will happen before the next meeting. Either the association will be granted the unit because of the foreclosure, or there will be a sales action of which the person who is proposing to purchase has qualified. So it's the whole thing will be with closing. Either we'll get all of our money or get the unit. It's my understanding there's about a $35,000 mortgage on it, so there would be some considerable equity inuring to the association should that happen. The other unit with legal issue is the unit that the owner went into bankruptcy. They made an agreement with the court and they are paying it. And it is somewhat of a deficit because if you add it all up, it barely covers the fees. So, but of course, once it's set by the circuit court, there's nothing we can do about it. We did save some money, and the circuit court was sending the money to the attorney, and the attorney was then sending it to us and charging us a handling fee to do it. And so we went to the court and petitioned them, and they're sending it to us now, so we save about $80.
Okay, let's get into old business. Status of 120 Pinehurst.
All right, we're finally off dead center with 120 Pinehurst. Mr. Berry has decided to do some considerable renovation even after, of course, this is the unit for those who may not be up to date on it that had a fire last year, and it was consumed pretty much the inside of the whole unit. We went into agreement with the water extractors to fund or at least do the work to tear everything out. And once it was out, Mr. Berry decided to do extensive rewiring electrically and plumbing-wise and what have you. It's a good idea if you're going to do it, if you're going to upgrade the unit, because actually there were no walls in there or anything else. But anyway, he finally got everything ready, and so we went back and negotiated with water extractors, and their bid was about $1,400 higher than we received from the insurance company, of course less the deductible. So I reached an agreement with them last week that they will match the funds that we received, so the only out-of-pocket we will be the $2,500 deductible. They put in the insulation in the unit Friday, there was an inspection today, and we started the drywall installation tomorrow. So it's really moving along well.
Cool. All right, next item is the resurfacing of clusters LMNOP.
I'm going to start soon.
Yes, sir.
Please beware, please, we will help you in any way whatsoever. If you need rides or anything like that, should there be an owner here that is anticipating a problem somewhat, it is an inconvenience. There's just no question about it. But as with other clusters, once this system is installed, you'll find less puddling and quicker drainage. And so please bear with us. We lumped these clusters together because of their proximity, number one, and number two, if we did that, we saved about $20,000 in setup costs. So there'll be LM, O, and P, LM, O, and P will kind of all be displaced together. I've worked it out with the owners that, or the owner residents that have issues as far as handicapped, and try to get them some spaces closer to where they are. Also, our staff will be available 7:30 to 3:30 in a golf cart to help anybody to move groceries or deliveries or anything like that.
Okay, so what you're saying is if Pam has groceries to bring in, we can have one of the guys come in.
Absolutely. We can take them those 15 feet if you'd like. Happy to help
Can
you.
we put them away too?
Okay, all right, everybody clear on what's gonna happen on L, M, O, and P?
What happened to Ann?
They left. They gave up. Just L, M, O, and P. Okay, next item on the agenda. John, could you bring us up to speed, please, on Unit 146?
Yes, 146 was recently purchased, and we went through the usual interview with that purchase. Subsequently, however, the owner has allowed someone to semi-reside in the unit, and we've requested a application because our documents require an application and a background check of everybody that lives in the community. It seems that number one, the owner has not come forth with that application. Number two, documents have been given to the association that proves that because of activities of that particular resident, not the owner, but the resident is in violation of our documents as far as the felony laws. We've requested the resident to leave. That hasn't happened. We had our attorney send letters. They were not heeded. And unfortunately now we've had to file an action. We, being the association through its attorney, filed an action for removal and abatement of the violations. I see the owner's here. Maybe she wishes to speak.
I do. My name
Would
is...
you like a microphone?
Yes, okay. My name is Margaret Copley. I lived in Glen Lakes for 18 years. I am engaged to the man in question. Had I known about the felony restriction, I never would have purchased the property. I was asked to do an application for him. I requested a little more time, so I had the $100 to do it, but before I was able to do that, I received a letter from the association, stating that we had to get out. I paid for my unit outright. I paid a year's worth of the condo fees. I am in love with this man. I am engaged to him. We have nowhere to go at the moment, but we're looking for a place to go, and we'll sell the unit. I have to answer. I'm a born-again Christian, and I have to answer to a higher authority than any of you. And I could not kick him out. I don't think that's what Jesus would want me to do. Let he who is without a sin cast the first stone. The reason there were any confrontations is because it was like a witch hunt, and we were I'm sorry, is that mine?
No,
Okay.
sorry, apologize.
I don't know what prompted it. We had John, the maintenance man, do some work in our kitchen. Also, there were two men that came to visit me, and John pulled up in a golf cart and questioned as to why they were there. They look like they're homeless, but they're not. In fact, the gentleman that had the long beard he runs the Splash and Dash car wash. The reason I did not, ultimately, I sent Catherine an email and asked for a little more time. The application was due on the 22nd. I asked until the 27th, I believe. But on the 22nd, I opened a letter from you all that was dated that it came in on the 21st, and you had already done a research on Daryl. And so I figured, well, and made your decision. So I figured, why should I even pay $100 if you were gonna nip it in the bud to begin with? I don't know if my realtor was aware of the felony business, you know, before she sold me the condo. I know she was anxious to sell it, but I was not aware of it. And I was very much looking forward to living in the community. However, I guess that's an impossibility now unless you all are gracious enough to change your minds. So, all up, the only other thing I can say is I don't have a lot of money other than my widow's benefits. So I can't even hire an attorney to answer the summons that was served to me, so I'm going to have to try to do it myself within the 20-day period. And this Sunday is Easter, and when Jesus was on the cross, he said to the Father, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." And I have to ask him to do the same for all of you. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Not for you, ma'am, I have one for John. John, was the documents vetted and original sale?
Original sale, everything was transpired in a normal manner.
And let me just say this. Mr. Lowe's legal residence is still in Kentucky. And he has been going back and forth and back and forth. And when he is in Florida, he stays with me and he hopes to move here eventually. And as I said, we will put the property on the market, but everything takes time, and we'll do it as hastily as possible.
You mentioned that his legal residence is in Kentucky.
Yes.
Why on his recent arrest report as of March 28th does he have?
Well, because he was
Not at your address, it's listed at a different address altogether.
well, possibly, was that the 4916 address?
Based on the most recent arrest on the 28th for
The 27th, I think it was.
the theft was not listed in Kentucky, it was not listed in Wildewood Springs, it was listed in another address. So
Well, if it was-
my question is, how can his legal address be in Kentucky, as you say, and then on the most recent arrest report for theft, grant theft, is a different address altogether? That's what's got me confused.
If it was the 4916 50th Avenue West address, that is where I moved from, which was in Glen Lakes,
But you've been here how long?
since November the 13th.
Okay, that's the only question I have.
And let me just show you this. We were sent by certified mail, by regular mail, all these notices. And they're all virtually the same, so that was a waste. But again, I don't think Jesus would want me to desert this man, even though he has problems. I've known him for 6.5 years, and he was in a motor vehicle accident 2 years ago and got hooked on drugs. But the drugs that were found in the vehicle that he was pulled over to the side of the road and sleeping in were not his. So, pardon me?
They all say that.
Well, it's the truth. I'm sorry.
John West, thank you, ma'am, appreciate your time.
Sure.
Is this something we should be?
Wait.
Oh, sorry. Is this something, Jim, that
Maybe we should be discussing in a another meeting in regards to
No.
rules, et cetera,
No.
or right here?
No, right here, it's on the agenda, this is open discussion.
This is
Go right ahead.
the body.
A question that I have of you, ma'am, did you not say that you lived in Wildwood Springs for a period of time before you bought your unit now?
No, I lived in Glen Lakes
Okay.
for 18 years, 18 plus years, and then I moved into the unit on 11/13/19 was the closing.
Jim, I understand her concern, but I don't think it should be the homeowner's concern. And that is that we do have rules and regulations. They've been written out, they were presented to her at the time the purchase was made. We've all lived by those rules and regulations. We've had people living by those rules and regulations for at least 10 years that I'm aware of. And I can't see any reason or why or how we could go and change those rules at the present time just because of one situation, which, by the way, I might add, he certainly has not conducted himself in a very legal way when we have arrest warrants and so on that are pending within the last 6 months. So,
Well, the attorney that he has hired has told him that the charges are going to be dropped.
Well, ma'am, well, we're not here to discuss criminal aspects. We're just here to discuss what our documents stipulate and how we proceed. And I, for one, feel that as an owner and as a director, not speaking as the president, but speaking as a board member, that we continue to proceed with the due course of action.
Is that a motion?
No, well, there is no motion, John. It's just that what we've already put into place. The wheels are already in turn.
I agree with you.
John, you want to add to that?
Only the fact that once it goes into the attorney's hands, they wish them to be the spokesman, the individual. You may wish to contact Lobeck and Hanson, particularly Mrs. Rowe. State statutes basically dictate the fact that once we've turned it over to our attorney, unless we could advise them to do something through them to you, we're not supposed to have a direct relationship or try to do something.
We're not judge, jury, and
No,
executioner.
we don't want to be.
All right, let's move on to the next item, the ad hoc bocce ball. Anybody from the bocce ball committee present? Did they all go back on one word?
I know there was a medical situation that.
Oh,
that
I just wanted to
they had
thank
no
you.
choice.
They were very, very thorough.
Yes, there were.
Okay, we have a proposal, excuse me, final proposal from the bocce ball committee. I hope you all had an opportunity to read it.
Yes.
Okay? Very interesting. I just wonder, what the heck is a patent cube?
Second game. We were asked about that several years ago, remember?
You gotta speak French when you
It's free French.
I can't even speak English, I'm having problems up here.
It's a little different. I think that the ball they use is steel
Oh, okay,
and the other one is not.
all right.
Yeah, tanks of steel, heavy ball.
Ball.
Yeah, and I had a question on
Okay.
that, and I don't know.
Here, you got it?
Yeah.
When I read over this, because I did understand that ball for the other game was made of steel and heavier, and yet we're preparing it so that it will go with both balls, and the steel, and it says, John, you're shaking your head, I hope?
Well, yeah, what I'm reading, at least what I'm reading from their presentation is, although the field of play is about the same, the weight of the tank ball might injure the surface or the subsurface of the bocce ball court.
If
That's
they
what I
throw
read.
it. If they throw it, they're not allowed to throw it.
So this is my problem. I understand that they could hurt the surface if they throw it. However, it's real hard to control that somebody, when they get excited, they're not going to throw it and they're supposed to roll it.
Well, it's the same thing on the tennis court. You're not allowed to rollerblade.
Well, of course, he's not likely to rollerblade on the
We can't
tennis court,
watch,
so.
children might.
Yeah, that's not likely to happen. I think it is likely to happen that someone will throw the heavy ball when they're excited. So, I mean, I'm not trying to stop it or anything, to say that's cautionary measure. I was confused because it said it could destroy the surface. and yet we're approving it, but saying, but remember now, you can't throw it, you only roll it. So my concern is when they get excited, sometimes you toss it, just like you do a bowling ball when you're playing bowling. So there is a possibility. That's all I'm bringing up.
I thought we were talking about bocce ball. We're talking about something else now?
No, it's the same thing, it's just two different types of games that are played on a bocce
Okay,
ball court.
I'm unfamiliar with the topic at this point.
Okay, on this proposal, they have proposed two different games. The bocce ball
Okay.
and the other French game, whatever that is.
Okay.
Which are very similar. However, the bocce ball court, the ball they use for bocce is not as heavy as the steel
So
ball.
what happened to the bocce ball court?
It's the same thing, only thing they're gonna use both games on it, but we just have to be careful. People are doing it using the steel ball, that they don't get excited and toss it rather than just roll it.
Same court, different ball.
Why allow the heavier ball? Why not just the bocce ball?
I don't know, I'm kind of asking that question, why we got from just the bocce to the other game, I
I
don't
mean, I
know.
came from a place that did competition with bocce ball, and they didn't allow the other type.
John?
The only reason apparently it was brought up is part of the committee happens to be from the French area. of
Oh,
Canada.
that's why.
You see the committee members, Mr. DuPont and somebody else prefers the game of tank. Out of maybe 80 or 100 people that might want bocce or more, there may be 5 to 7 that want the tank.
Like Steve just said, if that's the case, we can move along with that and just kick the tank out of it.
I don't think they really cared about the French game. They just expanded their horizon, saying you can play it. We say you can't use it.
Leslie, why are you concerned about that? For 5 people and the possibility that we might ruin the bocce ball?
They'll play the other games.
Because I trust these grown-ups.
You know what, I trust all of them too, that's not the issue. The issue is even when you're bowling, there's a possibility sometimes that you will throw that ball rather than roll it. It's not a matter of trust, it's a matter of, this has changed from the original proposal, and I was simply questioning how we got from the bocce to the other one, which could possibly cause damage to the bocce ball court.
Right. Okay, any other comments? John, hold on. Marty, I'll get you.
Where would the $10,000 come from?
We don't have it in the budget this year, but it'll have to be budgeted next year. And to answer that question, it'll have to come out of your pocket, my pocket, and every $550.
That would be in the next budget.
In the next budget, there's no money in the budget this year for it. Does that answer your question? Yes. Okay. Nancy, did you have a? Marty?
Can we just take the petanque off, out?
Absolutely. What, we can do that.
Okay, I would make the motion that we accept it, taking the petanque out.
Okay, motion
If
made.
that's how you say it.
Oh, hold on. Motion made. Well, here is second. Second.
What is the motion?
The motion is to accept the proposal for the bocce ball court taking out, use bocce balls instead of steel balls.
As a budgeted item for 2020.
Is that correct, Marty? Budget item 2020. Question on the motion.
Yes, I have a question.
Time.
I have a question.
Sure.
We don't have a representative of the ad hoc committee here to explain anything out, to have any questions answered from their little committee. I think that we really need to roll this until someone is, from the committee is here to explain things.
Okay, our motion was made and seconded. There's a motion on the floor. John, you have a question? John Harry.
Well, it's a motion to table, there's no discussion.
Well, there was a motion, who made the motion to table?
Tammy did, I thought Tammy did.
No, she.
I misunderstood that.
I could probably get Andy on the phone.
No, well, I mean, I think it's, the proposal is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
As I understand, my question was, I heard that the motion to accept the report
Motion
as
to
rendered,
to accept the proposal as rendered with the exception of,
the tank,
right,
but
based on 2020 budget.
so that means that you're directing the budget committee to put it in the budget?
Exactly, for 2020, for next year.
Just so I understand.
Okay, you got that down?
Go ahead. Indelible.
I don't know. How do you spell P-E-T-A-N-Q-U-E?
If nothing else, we'd love.
Okay, motion made, duly seconded. Any further discussion on the motion? I am calling for the vote. All in favor signify by raising their hand.
Oh, we're not doing this?
All opposed, same sign.
Wait a minute, can we do a voice?
Can.
We can, let's go for roll call vote.
I need to know who made the motion
Marty made the motion.
and who seconded.
That would be Steve Abu. Motion is to accept the proposal with
All
the
right,
exception.
here we go.
Thank you.
Roger Schultz.
Yes. Can we have a discussion before?
Card call for the vote. Roger Schultz.
Yes.
Yes. Dick O'Dowd. You.
Can I abstain?
No,
No.
I can, but it would be no vote.
no, you cannot abstain from the vote when you're
Just say
present.
no.
Is that no, Dick?
Yep.
It's a no.
Leslie Jacobs.
No.
I approve. Steve Abul.
I approve. Yes.
Dick is not here. Jim Munson.
Yes.
Marty Kaufman.
Yes.
Tammy Alba.
No.
Nancy Arnold.
Yes.
Debbie Dial.
Yes.
Was that yes?
Yes.
John Humphrey.
Yes.
Sue Downs.
Yes.
John West.
Yes.
It passed.
Motion is passed. Okay. Next item, the flood insurance issues.
Okay, as you all know, the owners at the annual meeting adopted a amendment to the declaration removing the requirement to purchase flood insurance from the association's documents. That's step one. Statutes require the banks that hold mortgages or any mortgage holders also to agree. And so step two is now in action, I guess is the word. We've mailed out to approximately half the community as of today the request for mortgage information. We've also put it on the website. We're getting very good response so far. We've got something almost 180 responses back, with the preponderance of them being no mortgages. But obviously, we have to get to 558 or very close to it, and the rest of the mailings to the owners should be out by the end of this week. It'll probably tail around through the summer, is my guess, but we'll get a pretty good angle on it as far as who we have to contact if we haven't gotten. I've got 4 or 5 just given me here today, so we're coming in good. We're close to 200 of 558. It's quicker and faster than anything else we've done so far, so people are cooperating.
Is there a date that they have to be back?
No, we didn't give them a date, because there'll be a date given to the banks.
Yes.
In other words, if they don't respond by such and such a time, they're, but no. We don't want to give, because people are going back and forth, we didn't want to feel like they missed it and they don't want to send it or something.
Okay. John, you done with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Where that lady lives.
Communications. We have a petition from Cluster P requesting a vote for unit numbered parking spaces. John, you have that petition?
Everybody should have a petition in their packet, but yes, it was signed by 46, 45, but 1 or 2 are the same unit. So, I'm sorry, no, I think that it was signed by 12 owners in that particular cluster P, which is a majority, which if you take the template of what happened earlier, even before I came, when the vote was taken, what's it for O, section O?
Q.
Q. And you probably remember that better than I do. But the bottom line is, there is a history, and because of issues within that cluster, with people that aren't practicing what we call common courtesy, this issue is before you.
I've got a question. Wait a second. Look at you. Look at you. Relax. Nancy, you wanted to comment on this one?
I would like to comment on this. Cluster Q did this probably 8 or 9 years ago because we had such parking problems. And we did it ended up, we did it through our attorney at the time, because it is not written in our documents. So anyway, and we did have some people that did not go along with it, but we did have a majority, and we went before the board, and it passed. It has worked out wonderfully for us. Very, very few times has somebody taken advantage of. So we have our parking places for our units, and then a guest place, and then parking places and a guest place. And it's clearly spelled out on each place. And it's just really, really worked out well for us. We're very, very pleased.
I believe we did it twice, didn't we, for cluster Q?
Wow, yes.
But it worked out.
But,
John?
Yeah, and the question, when you did this, if you have a carport, can you have one?
No, that was the thing, because we had people that owned a carport and then had 2 cars in front of their unit, that was the problem that we were experiencing. So if you have a carport, you don't have a numbered unit. So you have one or the other. And that really, it's just worked out beautifully for us.
Jim?
John?
Subsequent to your vote, or after your vote, Nancy, the documents were re-amended, of course, in 2011, and there is a now provision in there for the board to assign spots. And so before it's like it wasn't, but now, if somebody requests this and if the vote goes forward, the board has the right to assign spots.
Marty?
What if you have somebody that has a carport and also has a handicap sign?
Good point. Good question, Marty. You know,
We haven't experienced that, and so I guess in that case
You will. There's also another issue I'd like to bring to the attention. I don't think when you guys did it back, those 8 or 9 years ago, was brought up. Looking at it, if the board's going to take on, if the board's going to follow the documents as amended in the 2011, I believe it was, to assign parking spaces, you also want to take in consideration the security issue of it too. If you have a number, like argument, say 239 is a space that's assigned space, and come nighttime, all of a sudden the bad guy, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, don't get me wrong. The bad guy comes along, sees that the space in 239 is vacant, and the lights are out in 239. That gives them an opportunity, a better opportunity to think, hey, it's an easy mark. The board's going to sign that, we might want to take that into consideration too, and instead of using unit numbers, maybe a different type of number assignment, like a numerical assignment and then a number assignment is part of the consideration too. Also, I was thinking, it is an interesting concept, but there's no guarantee though for the owner that their spot is going to land directly in front of their unit. Nor is a guest spot going to land directly in front of their unit. There is no guarantee on that either. So, as the board's going to take the position of assigning it, which we're bound by documents. John Humphrey, what are you doing in the next month?
Am I doing what?
For the next month?
Going home and shovel snow. No, we're working on it, but they can't do anything until the paving's done.
Well, that's the other consideration
Yeah,
too.
we gotta wait for the paving to get done, and then they'll have to decide what they want to do over there.
So I would entertain a motion to table until such time that we have all our ducks in a row. Right now, the ducks aren't even in the same pond. Go ahead, Joe.
Are you going to table this?
Yeah, we're going to table this.
Till when?
Well, first of all, the paving has to be done.
Yep.
The what do they call it? Striping and the sealant has to be done on the asphalt. That has to be done. Then we have to come up with some kind of a numbering system.
If for
Hold on,
some,
Marty, I'll get you.
if for some reason, what you just said about the
What's your name, by the way?
Joe March.
Joe March. When you
527.
there you go. Did you
Am
get
I
that,
loud
Leslie?
enough? I can get louder.
No, it's okay. She heard you.
What you brought up about the people breaking in, or stealing stuff. Our cluster has, when everybody leaves, there's 4 people there. And they're never awake. They sleep. They all go to bed early, they're so old. But my thought is, you go out, you get robbed, are you gonna be responsible for it?
Hell no.
Why not? You're not letting, they know that nobody's there.
Well, we're gonna be responsible for it.
Well, you're the one putting the numbers there.
You requested it.
Wait,
No.
The majority requested it.
I want to talk.
I want to count. I want a number, a names of everybody.
The
I didn't
majority
request it.
requested it.
We
No.
didn't.
You're wrong.
You're wrong. You don't know the whole story.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is Doris White. I live at 541. No
I'm sorry, ma'am,
one,
I didn't catch the first two.
I said my name is Doris White. I live at 541.
Yes, ma'am.
No one ever came to my house to discuss this. If I hadn't looked down at the mailbox, I wouldn't have known about this.
Okay.
Now, where we live,
Okay.
our area is not as big as where Tammy lives. And so therefore, they probably have more room for parking spots. Down where I live, I mean, I counted the units, I counted the parking spots before I came today. And,
Joe,
I mean, in this one little corner where I live, no way could anybody have 2 parking spots, one for a guest and one for a person. There is not enough room there.
Okay.
Now, my husband's handicapped,
Okay.
and he cannot walk any further from our front door to our car.
Okay.
And if we're don't have that spot, I don't know what we'd do.
Okay.
I guess we'd have to move.
Yes, ma'am. You're next.
I'll be calm. This is not a request because there's an argument between 3 or 4 residents with another resident who's
Right, I'm
giving
aware
them
of it.
parking problems.
I'm
Why
aware
do
of
we
it.
all have to suffer? And I don't see one of them here today.
I'm aware of that.
They went
too.
around asking they wanted all this. I don't see one of them here.
I'm aware of that too. Are you familiar with the term King Solomon? I'm trying not to divide the child right now.
Well, we
Okay,
have-
please. Joe, I gave you a chance. Marty, you
Well, I
had
didn't
your card
finish
up?
here.
I guess I disagree about having to have a code, because anybody that comes in here, if all the blinds or shutters are shut, a normal person would assume they're not here.
Right, well, that's another point too. But the point is, we have very limited information at this point as a board to make a decision. Very limited information, okay? This is, basically, we're being blindsided by this right now, okay? That's why I asked John Humphrey, what did he do for the next month?
How many residents are in that cluster and how many parking spots are there?
John, what do you got?
Can't give you that answer.
There's
I
26.
had it.
Hold on. John, what?
Okay. All I can give you right now is the fact that the majority of the owners in there have signed a petition to have you consider this.
No.
My recollection, the majority of the owners have, Joe. Your name's off.
She's got 26, there's 26 units there and only 12 people signed.
Nobody came to her.
And nobody came to my house.
And you told us it had to be 90%.
They don't, no. There's no such thing as any percentage anywhere. There just isn't.
No.
I'm sorry. But my recommendation would be table this until at least your October meeting, because of the fact we've got the renovation, we've got the striping, and we've got all those people out of town.
Point of
I don't
order.
think it's fair to do anything less than that.
Point of order. As a director, not as a president, I pass the gavel to Sue Downs. I make a motion to go ahead and table to such time we have further investigation until all the construction is completed in the asphalt and repaving. Motion made, seconded by Leslie Jacobs. Yeah.
All in favor, raise your
Can
hand.
we have some discussion?
Discussion.
Only discussion I want to do, I think we should go to a committee, not just lay out there somewhere, and this should be decided, number one, handicaps, rules, all the other stuff, and then we can decide how it's going to happen, but that shouldn't be done by the board, that should be done by committee, and then a recommendation.
John, if you paid, you listen, they were part of the motion to further investigation through committee.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, because that can come after we just make a decision whether we're gonna allow the vote or not.
That was the part of the original motion.
And what we have to do too is verify that people on this list actually signed it.
That's all part of the investigation?
Yes.
That's part of the motion. Motion made, duly seconded, so you have the gavel.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. All opposed, same sign.
Unique.
Okay, motion has been passed.
If there's 26 people, 13 signed.
For,
Well, one's closed off.
No, no, if you count.
for the record, I have reassumed the gavel.
You have any students, yeah.
Okay. Next item. John, letters, here we go.
Next item is that it was brought to our attention that someone in Glen Lakes area cut a rather large hole in the foliage across the lake. Basically to, in our opinion, get a nice view of the lake and the pond. And subsequently, because the quickest way to block that up and preserve the privacy of that area is we erected a fence. Well, the person who contends they didn't cut it down, the only person who benefited by the hole wrote us a letter, which you have attached, and she's saying that she's been there for 5 years, and she had a nice view of the lake, which she did. Subsequent photos will show you that. And that she wasn't sure who cut it down, maybe FPNL or not. Well, FPNL has an easement there, and they go long ways. They don't go across, like between their house and our lake. They go the long way, just like they do the long way down along 43rd Street. And so we put the fence up, and she immediately got in touch with us. She actually tried it. She begged the boys not to put it up. It's up, and it says no trespassing, just like all the other fences that we have in the areas where we're trying to secure the area.
It's a nice fence.
It is, I love it. It's beautiful.
So she's asking through the letter for you to, number one, take the fence down, or number two, at the very least, she's staring at 2 no trespassing signs, take the trespassing signs down.
All right,
That's the
board members.
request before you.
All right, board members, there you go, you got it, go.
Too bad.
Nancy, go.
This has been an ongoing issue over the years, and I know we've had an attorney involved. We have threatened to sue that association in the past because they cleared everything and had waterfront property with picnic tables and everything in the past. In the past. So we have done foliage, and I think the fence should stay because I just think based on past history, it should stay.
John, you got a copy you want to?
No, I agree with her.
Okay, right.
I just question, do we need the signs?
Absolutely. Ms. Tanner?
I like the sign, I like the fence, however, the sign, it is a little
Okay.
harsh.
Yeah, but over the years, they jumped over the fence
Well,
and
that's
cut off
true.
foliage.
Yeah, that is true.
All right, well, maybe there's a reminder not to do that.
Dick, and besides that, to add to that, we have no trespassing signs to the entire perimeter of our property. Dick?
You did.
Me?
Just say I don't care.
Okay. Pam? you
I already
got
said
that?
too bad.
All right. Go ahead, Sue.
I'm fine with it, keep it.
John?
I would suggest we send her a letter and tell her to maybe perhaps she should plant some foliage and plants in that big area to cover up the sign.
Leslie?
Nothing.
Okay, Marty, you
I
got?
agree with John, put the trees she cut down back.
Deb?
I'd say remove the sign, I don't like the sign either, but leave the fence.
All right. You want my, you don't want my comments. Todd, would you send a nice letter to the lady? Thank you very much for your we have taken it under advisement, however, the fence and the sign are gonna stay.
I shall do so.
If she would love to have a view of the lake on our side of the property, I'm sure Debbie could hook her up with a nice unit for sale. So we're back by Woodlawn.
What is the address in question? The street address.
Where the letter came from?
Yes.
Okay,
51st Drive West.
yeah. 51st Drive West. That's in Glen Lakes, is it?
It is.
Now, keeping in mind,
And the estates of Glen Lake.
like Nancy Thomas said, there was an incident where we had a gentleman that cut down the foliage on a lake, one of our lakes,
No, that's Glen Lake.
just so we can go fishing.
They can't see our property.
That wasn't too far back. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
What cluster is involved?
Cluster is Lakeside Village.
Lakeside.
Cluster Q, yeah.
It was huge. That was 15 or 16 feet.
Any other? John, would you handle that, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Don't forget to include Debbie's business card. Okay,
Yes, she's 51st Drive West. That is not a Southlands Five Lakes address. That is a Glen Lake.
Glen Lakes address. Okay, next letter, John, we got another one.
Next letter is written to the unit owner of 205 pursuant to complaints about kids using squirt guns and generally irritating people at Pool 1. I have not had a response from it, but I covered the complaints.
Okay.
Something to say about that?
Okay, ma'am. You got the floor.
On Saturday, when
Many of our residents were at the spring fling, I did observe her walking past the spring fling to go to another pool. But later, another resident of Cluster D found the children again at the pool with their squirt guns.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Was there anybody that, I mean,
It was, I can tell you who it was later.
yeah. All right, well, she's on the clock. If we do it again, she gets punished.
Go ahead. All right. I lost my place here. That's it for communications. Is that it for the letters, John?
Yeah, just a quick question.
Go ahead.
The squirt guns. They were, I'm certain, being a nuisance, but not just playing with the squirt guns. They were shooting all the other people, etc.
Well, it seemed to me that the person that made the complaint to the pool committee, Marty, and you were there, I don't remember if they were exactly squirting the people, but they felt the kids were certainly a nuisance, which is forbidden, and splashing around and using tossing a toy truck that could have been a problem, and running over still wet, touching areas of the heater and things like that could have produced some sort of shock.
And in the spot.
Being supervised, in other words.
Well, although they had supervision, they weren't being supervised.
And they were there with their grandmother.
That would be like, you could equate that to being against electrified pasture fence. You only had to do it one time.
A gentleman stopped the child
Did he?
from,
From going into the electrical outlet? Yeah, 'cause that'll definitely gonna put a hurt on a kid.
and the grandmother was unaware.
Okay. Deb, you got a comment, Debbie? Put your card down. Thank you.
Oh, that's me, I'm sorry.
Oh, put your card down, John.
Put your glasses on.
Catch. Leslie, go ahead.
John, by your letter, you don't spell out the fine.
No,
If
because
she's
the
not
first
in
letter,
compliance,
we try to
it's
make it
without.
somewhat amenable.
But the next
Yes.
letter has the fine.
That's the fine, yes.
Thank you.
All right. Keep your water pistols at home.
And your toy trucks.
At the owner meeting, we put out a suggestion box, or a suggestion sheet for people to sign up on. We got quite a few suggestions. However, John is still here. John West, I'm talking about. See, you all go in a different direction. No, there are quite a few quite a few interesting suggestions here. Okay? One is, this is an interesting one, car plugs for all.
Social.
Yeah,
Like that.
yeah. Okay.
Wish we could.
The new signs at Cortez entry area, we've already looked into that, to get bids on that, how much that was gonna
Every
cost.
time we've brought it up, it's been said nothing, there's been no action requested.
But we got bids on it, didn't we, 10 grand for both signs?
Now, I did a cursory thing,
Oh,
but I
cursory.
couldn't get it, you know. But, it was presented to the board and there was no action taken yet.
Okay,
I move that we look at it.
at the signs, Marty? Motion made that we look at the entry signs, do we hear a second?
What committee are you gonna send it to?
Infrastructure. Gotta go to infrastructure.
All those in favor of infrastructure?
We're gonna need a second. Need a second. Motion made, do I hear a second? Leslie, second. Send it out to infrastructure committee. All in favor signify by raising their hand. All opposed, same sign. There you go, John. Wait for that one. Motion carried.
John, you really want to be listed as no? I have to do it if you do it that way.
Do you really want to be listed as a no?
Yes.
You're the committee. He still has an opinion. Here's another one, walking paths or sidewalks along Wildwood Springs Boulevard. That was something that we were gonna have Dave Champs look into when he came
Well,
down.
along that way, yeah, but these were more of an indication of the entire
The entire what?
the entire length of Wildwood Springs Boulevard. Yeah.
That's impossible.
It is, it won't all be our property, that's for sure. We'll have to jump back and forth, because part of our property, part of that is all Spring Lakes, it'll be back and forth. Marty, you got something?
My understanding was that at one time, that when we have to pave Wildwood Springs Boulevard, that there was discussion about doing it then would be the most cost effective.
Right, that's what we'll talk to Dave Camps about. That's who Dave Camps is.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what, John, you got something? Yeah. You still get John.
I'd just like to make sure that when we do this, now I guess it's going to come up to that committee when we do the paving, et cetera, but this keeps coming up, and there's been many, many reasons why it hasn't been done because of a multitude of things. I'd like to have this go to a committee where we come back with a report of why we can or why we can't, so we can put this thing to bed, because it certainly isn't a case of just widening the roads, because you know the car will use a wider road.
Right.
And there becomes processes and problems based on building permits and all kinds of stuff that we investigated, but I'm not sure that the owners all know about it. So let's just, I'd like to see this go to a committee for a report and a recommendation.
It's gonna go right to the same committee, infrastructure. Oh, that's where it falls under infrastructure. Falls under infrastructure. Okay. The other one was the recycle bins in each cluster. We already looked at that 2 years ago, or maybe 3 years ago. It was too much of a cost. Johnny, want to put your card down, please, Tom? It was too much of a cost in order to have our employees come in to pull them out, put them back in at a certain time in the morning. So that's a mood issue. The other idea was about the dumpsters is installing higher fences around the dumpsters for aesthetic purposes.
Can you see it?
Okay? I'm just putting it out there. Now, here's something interesting for the landscaping.
I got a question. Doesn't the county require that we recycle?
No.
Really?
Really?
I never heard of such a thing.
We recycle, it's just where it is.
It's just
Well,
where it is.
yeah,
We-
but every day I
It's
can't walk
not
into
out
your
by the-
office.
Oh,
I
okay.
understand.
A lot of people can't. Pete, this is our landscaping committee. They want to get a list of trees that owners can buy and donate here to the association.
We have
So
that.
can you put that together and get that?
Yeah.
We can make notice.
Put it
make
on
notice
the
of
website.
what trees are.
Yeah. Type of tree, how it'll grow,
wide, tall, whatever.
You guys can have them.
Color, whatever, yeah.
Estimation of cost?
Yeah.
Thank you, Peter, appreciate it. Construct a dog park. All right? It's called GT Bread. Here's an interesting one, another interesting one. Install a dog waste station along the boulevard. Okay? Something we can take into consideration.
They don't.
Can I conduct one meeting, please? Thank you. And install flashing stop signs and speed monitoring devices.
You seen those flashing signs?
Speed monitoring devices. Now, Marty came up with a great idea about, what, about 3 years ago, when you wanted to sit in a golf cart with a hair dryer? Well, like that. Nobody's gonna know that it's not a speed gun. That was a great idea, Marty.
I'm just waiting to get my golf cart.
But we did look into the speed monitoring devices. John, what did they run?
$2,500 for the one that's run by solar, and it monitors the speed and it registers the speed.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we put some of those in at Reefer Bay Club, and people used it to check their speedometer. They would speed up. That's the problem with it. No. They're really good, but I'm afraid.
Okay, here's another one that's being seriously been considered, because I believe you got the boys getting ready to do this, right, John? Repaving the directional.
Yeah, we do that once a year. That's something we already do.
Once you all go back up north, then there'll be less traffic on the road. They can get out there and be a little safer. There's another one, allow pickup trucks with certain restrictions, folks. The good news and the bad news about that. The good news is it was brought up to the Rules Committee 2 years ago. It was voted down. Okay. Better control of the pepper trees, Pete.
Better control.
Better control of the pepper trees.
They're running wild.
What does that mean?
Control your trees, Pete.
All right.
I thought we weren't supposed to have them.
Yeah, we go around constantly and trim it back. I don't think it's invasive, you know?
I thought we weren't supposed to have pepper trees.
We don't add any, that's for sure.
We don't have them.
Oh, I thought we were to take them down.
No, that was the carrot woods that we're taking.
Carrot.
Marty.
No, I meant we were required.
No.
No.
Most of your buffer on the other side of the lakes that form really tight and neat and keep you away from the other areas are pepper trees.
Those are all pepper trees, yeah, that natural shield.
And when we cut back and try to make the lakes like we did Lake 3 and Lake 2, that was all pepper trees that we cut. So we're trying to maintain it as best as possible. We've increased the view for about 20 units to lakes that they didn't have before by some of the trimming we've done.
This is one that I know we've been working on all the time, burying the exposed electrical wire. I don't know if they're talking about the electrical wiring or the cable, but folks, we already had the Spectrum come through. Their crews came through and buried all of their cables. Now, as we go along and replace electrical cables on the street lights and whatnot, they're being buried in PVC in the ground.
I asked the individual this because this came in after the meeting and came in with a list of others. And he said he knew we were doing it, but he just wanted to make sure for safety purposes it got included on the list.
Oh, okay, good. And the other thing was, this has to be somebody from up north in Chicago. Try some solar power. Well, I guess they want us to send some to them. But we're going to seriously look into that. We talked about, and Marty, you were away, about the possibility of using solar power to operate our pool pumps.
As long as it keeps the temperature up.
The circulation.
Phone calls happen when it doesn't.
The circulation pumps.
Oh, okay.
So they're very good suggestions. And I thank everybody for taking the time out to go ahead and put these on pen to paper, and they will be taken into serious consideration. Sue?
Well, I think it's really important because when people are brave enough to come up with these suggestions, and it's brave to come up and say, so no ideas are foolish. I mean, they're good things to brainstorm. And I know everybody says carports for all, and that was kind of dismissed, and I'm bringing it back to the table because I happen to be one of those residents who does not have a carport. And I'm only saying it might not be possible to have carports for everybody, but maybe we should consider if there are people who really are ready to absorb the expense of a carport. I have driven around and I see there are some units that have carports right in front of their unit. They're not, like in the middle of the place. And there are units that have those here at Wildewood Springs. And I'm only saying that if there should be some way, if an owner, and I will say me in this case, if you want a carport, maybe there could be some way that we could figure out that it is doable for anybody who wants one. Not saying you just can't have carports for everybody.
Something to add on your to-do list.
No more.
Okay, manager's report.
Thank you. There's still a couple of other minor issues.
Go ahead.
For the record.
Yeah, John, you got the floor.
Yeah, thank you. The major backflow device has been repaired and has now passed.
The major backflow device at the front of the by Cortez Road has been repaired. As you remember, it failed inspection a couple months ago. Took us a while to get the part in. We had a quote as high as $1,350, but we were able to get it done by Ultra Plumbing for $850. It's been done and it is now passed an inspection. The inspection, people say that the entire device it's on its last legs. If and when the next couple of years comes, then we have to do another $800-900 repair. We may want to think about replacing it. It's about $4,000 to replace. It's a major backflow.
Should we put that into a budgetary item?
Yeah, that's under, we would consider putting that into reserve. That would be a reserve item for sure. Annual spring fling was last Saturday, and I hear it was a great success.
150 people.
150 people, and I hear the Flanagan House got a little bit richer.
Yeah, Bill won.
60.
And he told you?
Yeah, the 50-50 was, the winner won $331. It was a very nice thing. And the association, the committee decided they put it back into fund because we had to buy a barbecue for $400 and everything else. So the other 50% of it went back into the association funds. So that was nice. 6 new chairs have been ordered for the pool as regular chairs, and all the small metal tables that were becoming aesthetically unpleasing, to say the least, have been sent in to be renovated and repainted. And finally, all carports now have the new night lights that when somebody walks out there or somebody drives a car, your carport's lit. It's certainly more important maybe in the winter months than it is now, but all but one individual, we've had 20 calls at least saying thank you, they look good, it's nice. I was surprised, but one person said it looks like a garage or a gas station. Can't please everybody. Yeah.
They'll complain if you hang with a new rope.
Yes. Anyway, so that's the end of that report, but basically it's safety purposes and for security, they're very happy with the lights.
Thank you, Brian. All right, committee reports. Let's go with Marty. Marty, welcome back.
Thank you.
How'd you pull through?
They're doing very well. Jackie, as always, is on top of it. And if there's a problem, give us a call and he'll fix it.
Thank you very much, Marty. Let's go, Chris.
We have a survey out there for our website, and so if you haven't done it yet, it's still on the website under the announcements page, and we're certainly looking forward to your feedback on how the website is serving you, serving the community.
Thank you, Chris. Let's go with tennis committee. Mark, anything you want to report?
I think it's been a great season, actually, for tennis and pickleball.
Okay, thank you. John Humphrey, you got anything to report?
No, I'm done.
Peter, good landscaping, go ahead, buddy.
Okay, right now, we're nearing the end of our first group of clusters. We're planting in the back and the sides. And as soon as we're done with that, we'll start the next group of clusters. 3 steps. We prepare the bed, we make sure we have adequate irrigation there, and make sure any storm water is drawn away from the buildings, far enough away from the beds. And at that time, we reorder that group of shrubbery that we need for that group of clusters. And we'll do this so we're done by the rainy season. And then mid-October, all the sides and backs will be mulched. So that's a little going now, yeah.
On these, the back of these units, are you going in there and doing that as a standardized process, or does the owner have to request new shrubbery? In other words, you're going in and seeing the back and say, that needs a shrub there, that one's there, and there.
When we initially started, we put all our feelers out and got response from everybody, what they wanted.
Good.
So that's all done. Whatever they requested is there, plus what we picked.
I actually did an inventory.
Yeah.
And then we did an inventory and gave it to the cluster advisors to take to the clusters.
To bring back to us.
Bring back feedback, and some got good feedback, some we didn't get any with this one.
I was just wondering, I mean, we have some absentee owners, et cetera, that for people that don't care, were you looking at those units if you had no correspondence with the owner?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
We, like John said, we did our inventory first. This is what we would like to put there. But getting the feedback, it superseded what we said, fine, we use that. Okay.
Hey Pete, I just wanted to thank you on that correspondence that you sent out, an email that came out explaining to everybody about how many trees you had put in and how people were, I thought that was marvelous, it was nice to know that.
I know.
And I don't know if anybody else knows about that, if you want to share that, but
That's why I
do
did that,
thank you
because-
for that, that was wonderful.
Okay.
See, he doesn't have any R's either.
Ignore him right now, he's a little, ignore him,
They're being
it's okay.
snippy up here about my R's, not using R's. I said, you don't have any R's either. No. Okay. I'm from Brooklyn. I say muffler. They say muffler. Muffler. Okay, director's comments, left or right, let's go, John.
Motion adjourned.
Nancy, Roger, Tammy, Dick. You?
Pass.
Okay. Nada.
Nothing.
Good. No, John.
Brienne.
Who?
Brienne, that's French for nothing.
She's working on her French, good. I'm just happy to be back, and thank everybody for all your positive thoughts and prayers.
Debbie, nothing. John, you got something you wanted to say? Okay.
Thought you might.
Now, owner's comments. Go next. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I live at 541 Lakeside Drive, Doris White, and ever since we've had the hurricane, the noise has got worse from 43rd. Real bad. I sit in my lanai and you can just hear them flying down 43rd.
Okay.
I go out to the pool and the shrubbery around the pool, around that fence. We just need something else there. Also, I have heard that, in fact, I know that down on Pinehurst, they had an incident on Saturday night where 2 bikes were stolen
Yeah, close, yeah. I'm familiar with it.
right off of somebody's car.
Right, they had them locked in a car ready to travel and they were broken with a bolt cutter.
Now, somebody told me that somebody down there has a camera, and I didn't know if maybe they had it recorded.
The lady already left today that had the camera.
Oh, is that right?
You see where we're going with this?
I understand.
What would Jesus do?
You're right. I believe, but still, you have to help.
Just ask the question. Tyler asked the question.
She claims that there's no film in it.
Oh, but I do, I mean, as far as the noise is.
Hey, fix the shrubs.
We don't have any, there isn't any really shrubs along the fence.
Okay.
We'll take a look.
Thank you.
With certain-
Okay.
Anybody else on this? Okay, one of the things I want to bring to your attention, we had an incident on a truck being towed off the property that shouldn't have been towed. And I'm here to tell you that the truck was parked legally, it had a permit pass on it. Whoever at 2:51 in the morning called security and said they want that truck towed out of there, claiming that they were a member of the board. Well, there's only 2 people on the entire property that have authorization to tow a vehicle based on the liability, liability issues that can be created. And that's myself and Mr. Haggerty. So I just want you to let you know, no one has the authority to tow another vehicle off the property. Okay? That being said, motion to adjourn is always in order.
I'd just like to say one thing though, please, to follow up on that, Jim.
Sure.
There's a serious liability to the association.
Ooh.
Serious liability to the association if anything is removed, such as a car, without the proper vetting of the procedure. We were very fortunate on this one that the towing people realized that they, number one, took apparently authority to tow from the wrong person, and number 2, they found the correct parking pass in the windshield when they impounded the car. Unfortunately, it was too late, and the people had to ruin their Sunday tripping around to get somebody to get in there and get it out. But, so please, if there's an issue, let it go through Jim or I, because of the liability situation.
And the other thing I want to add, the owners of the vehicle were very gracious on how they handled it. There could have been a big can of worms open on that thing. Okay? Motion to adjourn is always in order. Ladies and gentlemen, have a happy Easter. Enjoy, be well, be safe. Don't forget today is tax day.